Inside the imperial palace of Rome, a woman named Marcia is about to make a decision that will change the Roman Empire forever. You pour his wine every night. You have done it for almost 10 years. Same cup, same hands, same man. His name is Commodus, Emperor of Rome. And tonight, you just found out he wants you dead. A boy handed you a tablet minutes ago. A child named Phil Commodus, the Emperor's favourite servant, found it lying on a table and picked it up without knowing what it was. You read it. A list, names of people to be executed at dawn. Your name is first. You have minutes to decide. Because when that man steps out of his bath and sees the fear in your eyes, the trembling in your hands, he will know. And you will be dead before sunrise. On the night of December 31st, 192 AD, 3 people inside the imperial palace discovered that the emperor had ordered their execution. What they did in the hours that followed would end one of the most brutal reigns in Roman history. But to understand why they did it, you need to know what this man had done during 12 years of absolute power. I am Crown and Dagger, and this is what really happened. Most people know Commodus from the movie Gladiator, but what that film showed you was a version Hollywood could put on a screen. The real man was far worse. If you want history without filters, hit subscribe and like this video, because what comes next will disturb you. Picture a boy in the imperial palace, 11 years old, surrounded by marble, gold, slaves who bow before he speaks. His father is Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, the most respected ruler in the known world. The boy steps into his bath. The water is not hot enough. Any child might complain. This child orders the servant responsible. Thrown alive into the furnace that heats the water. He is 11 years old, and he has just ordered a man burned alive because his bath was lukewarm. The servants know the boy does not yet have the authority to execute anyone, but they also know that one day he will, so they improvise. They place lambskins into the furnace. The wool catches fire. The fat crackles and spits. The smell of scorched flesh fills the corridor. The boy smells it. He pauses, nods to himself, and sinks deeper into his bath. He believes a man has just died screaming in a furnace on his orders, and the only thing he feels is satisfaction that the problem has been dealt with. That boy is Commodus, and that moment is not a turning point. It is a revelation. The cruelty is not something that develops later. It is already there, fully formed, waiting for the day when no one will throw lambskins into the furnace to protect the people around him. Marcus Aurelius knew. He spent his life writing about discipline and virtue and the mastery of one's impulses. He hired the greatest philosophers in the empire to educate his son. He took the boy on military campaigns, hoping the weight of responsibility would shape him. None of it worked. Cassius Dio, who lived through everything that followed, wrote that only one thing prevented Marcus Aurelius from being completely happy: that after educating his son in the best possible way, he was deeply disappointed in him. When Marcus Aurelius died in 180 AD, his son was 19, and from that day forward, there were no more lambskins, no more pretending, no one left to protect the world from what he really was. Commodus did not want to govern Rome. He wanted to be worshipped by it. He believed, genuinely believed, that he was the reincarnation of Hercules. He had the 100-foot Colossus of Nero beheaded and replaced the head with his own, sculpted to look like the mythical hero. He renamed Rome after himself, renamed the Senate, renamed the months of the year. He declared himself a living god and demanded the empire treat him as one. But declarations were not enough. He needed to prove it, and the place he chose to prove it was the arena. He fought in the Colosseum over 700 times. Every fight was rigged. His opponents were given wooden weapons, or no weapons at all. Some were drugged, some were chained. Commodus fought with real steel against men designed to lose. And he charged the government 1 million sesterces for each appearance. 700 million sesterces drained from an empire that was already crumbling. But the money was not the worst part. The worst part was what the senators had to do. Commodus forced every senator and general to attend his fights. They sat in the front rows, and they were required to chant. Not cheer, chant. Specific words, rehearsed, mandatory. Cassius Dio recorded the exact phrase, "You are Lord. You are first of all men, most fortunate. You win, and you will win. From time everlasting Amazonian, you win." Think about what that means. You are a senator of Rome. You have commanded armies. You have governed provinces with millions of people, and you are sitting in the front row of the Colosseum, your voice cracking, sweat running down your face, screaming praise at a man who is beating a chained, drugged opponent with a wooden sword. And you know that if the emperor glances at you and your mouth is not moving, if your enthusiasm does not look convincing enough, your name goes on a list, and people on lists do not survive the week. This happened 700 times, for 12 years, but the rigged fights were not enough for Commodus. He needed something more grotesque. He ordered soldiers to gather the disabled from the streets of Rome, men who had lost their legs, men who could barely move. He had serpent tails attached to the stumps of their legs to make them look like giants from Roman mythology. Then he gave them sponges, not rocks, not weapons, sponges. Commodus entered the arena dressed as Hercules, lion skin, club, the full costume of a god, and he beat these men to death, one by one, in front of 50,000 spectators who cheered because they had no other choice, because the man in the arena was their emperor, and he had already shown them what happens to people who do not applaud loudly enough. One afternoon, during another spectacle, Commodus killed an ostrich by cutting off its head. He picked up the severed head. The neck was long. The blood was still dripping. He walked slowly toward the tribune, where the most powerful senators of Rome were seated, and one by one, he held the bleeding head inches from their faces. He did not say a word. He just stared, grinning, searching their eyes for any sign of disgust, any sign of fear, any sign that they were anything other than completely devoted to their god emperor. Cassius Dio was sitting in that tribune. He was there. He saw it happen. And he wrote that he tore a piece of laurel from his crown and shoved it into his mouth, chewing desperately because his body was about to betray him. He did not know if he was going to laugh or scream or cry, but he knew that whatever appeared on his face would kill him. So he chewed a leaf and survived another day. The arena was the public face of Commodus's madness. What happened behind the palace walls was the private face, and it was worse. Imagine being brought to the imperial palace. You are a woman, maybe a senator's wife, maybe someone pulled from the streets who never knew anything about power. It does not matter. You are here now because you were selected for one criterion: the way you look. There are 600 of you, 300 women, 300 young men, assembled from every level of Roman society. Inside these walls, every distinction vanishes. The senator's wife stands next to the woman from the streets, both wearing the same thing, both serving the same function, both property. The historian Lampridius documented what life looked like inside. Commodus did not govern. He did not read reports. He did not attend meetings. His advisor Perennis ran the empire, while the emperor spent his days in the baths and his nights in the banquet halls, surrounded by people who existed for one purpose: to be used. And every night, Commodus ordered his own concubines taken by other men while he watched. Not from behind a curtain, not discreetly. He sat and observed, because this was not about desire. It was a ritual of dominion. A nightly performance designed to remind every person in that room that they did not own their own bodies. He did. Think about what that does to a person. Not one night, not 1 week. Years of existing in a place where your body is not yours, where the man who controls your life treats you like furniture that breathes. And it was not just the women. He pushed his praetorian prefect Julianus into a swimming pool, while the man wore his full formal toga in front of his staff, then ordered him to remove every piece of clothing and dance before the concubines. clashing cymbals like a performer at a children's party. The head of the emperor's security, standing there with nothing on, humiliated, dancing, while everyone watched and no one could say a word. He grabbed real scalpels and cut into living people, not enemies, not prisoners, people in his household. He watched the blood pour from the wounds with genuine fascination. Some of his victims bled to death on the table while he stood over them. Lampridius described it plainly. He went so far as to bleed men to death with scalpels. He called it practicing medicine. It was cruelty dressed in a medical costume. He bathed 8 times a day, ate his meals in the water surrounded by concubines, and walked into the sacred temples of Rome, places where Roman citizens went to pray and seek peace, still carrying the stain of the previous night. Lampridius wrote that he entered these temples defiled with excess and human blood. This was the daily reality inside the palace, and the people trapped inside it had no exit, no appeal, no voice. They existed in silence because silence was the only thing that kept them alive. If you've made it this far, you understand why every person in that palace wanted this man dead. Drop a comment, subscribe if you have not, because what he did to his own family is next. In 182, his sister Lucilla sent a man to kill him. The assassin hid in the Colosseum with a dagger. The plan was simple: strike fast, strike silent, but the assassin lunged and shouted, "This is what the Senate sends to you." Those words gave the guards time to react. The assassin was killed. Commodus survived, and something inside him broke permanently. Lucilla was sent to Capri. Months later, a guard arrived on the island with orders from the emperor. She was executed. The woman who had been Empress of Rome died alone, far from everything she had known. But killing Lucilla was not enough. Not for a man like Commodus. The Historia Augusta records what he did next. He turned to his remaining sisters, daughters of Marcus Aurelius, women raised by philosophers, women of imperial blood, and he degraded them in ways the historians described with a single word: he corrupted them. This was not desire, it was calculation, a message delivered through the bodies of his own family. A statement to every person in Rome: there is no bond I will not break, no line I will not cross. If I will do this to my own sisters, imagine what I will do to you. Then he took a concubine and named her after his own mother, Faustina, the woman in his bed given the name of the woman who gave him life. A deliberate blurring of every boundary that separates a functioning human mind from something else entirely. His wife was next. Brutia Crispina had survived 10 years beside him. 10 years of watching other women enter the palace and disappear. 10 years of silence and obedience and fear. Then one morning he accused her of adultery. No witnesses, no trial, no defense. The accusation was the verdict. She was sent to Capri, the same island, the same fate, executed. After Crispina, the paranoia consumed everything. Senators dragged from their homes at night, heads on pikes along the roads, bodies in the Tiber. He exterminated the entire Quintili family. Men, women, children. The name erased. He killed his cousin, Vitrazia Faustina. He ordered the execution of dozens of men who merely resembled a fugitive he was hunting. Their only crime was having the wrong face. For 12 years, this was the pattern. A cycle of suspicion and death that consumed everyone who got close. No one safe, no one exempt, until the night a woman found her name on a list and decided she had survived long enough. Now you know who this man is. Now you understand what 12 years of his reign looked like. The furnace, the arena, the sponges, the scalpels, the women, the sisters, the lists. You are back in the palace. The tablet is in your hands. Your name is first, you find Latus, you find Eclectus, you show them the tablet. Latus stares at his name. He is the head of the Praetorian Guard. He has seen what happens to the people on these lists. Heads on pikes, bodies in the river, families destroyed. He knows there is no version of tomorrow where he survives if that list reaches the executioners. Eclectus reads his name and says nothing. He has served Commodus for years. He knows every corridor of the palace. He also knows that when Commodus decides someone is a threat, there is no appeal, no negotiation, only death. 3 people, 1 list, 1 decision, and no time. You know this man better than anyone alive. You have poured his wine every night for 10 years. You know that after his bath he drinks, always. It is the one ritual he never skips. Tonight that ritual becomes a weapon. You prepare the wine the same way you always do. Same cup, same pour. But tonight you add something. A poison you have kept hidden for exactly this kind of moment. Because when you live beside a man like Commodus, you learn to prepare for the night when your name appears on a list. The emperor steps out of his bath. He is in a good mood. Tomorrow is his day. The day he walks out as a gladiator and shows Rome who he really is. You hand him the cup. He takes it from your hands the way he has 1,000 times before. He drinks. Within minutes, his stomach contracts. The colour leaves his face. He begins to retch violently. His body is purging the poison. Fighting back. 12 years of arena combat have built something that a single dose cannot destroy. He is on the floor now, shaking, convulsing, but not dying. And the fear hits you like cold water. If this man survives the night, you will not see the morning. None of you will. The purge that follows will consume not just the 3 of you, but everyone connected to you. Friends, families, anyone whose name Commodus can remember through the fog of rage. You send word to Narcissus, a young wrestler, the emperor's own training partner, a man who has fought Commodus hundreds of times in practice and knows exactly how strong the emperor is, and how weak he is now. You offer him a fortune. He accepts. Narcissus walks through the empty palace corridors. Latus has reassigned the guards. The hallways are silent. The only sound is the retching behind a closed door. He enters the room. The most powerful man in the world is on the floor, barely conscious, the man who believed he was Hercules, who renamed Rome after himself, who beat defenseless men to death in front of 50,000 cheering spectators, trembling on cold marble, unable to stand. Narcissus wraps his hands around the emperor's throat. Commodus's eyes open. He understands. He tries to grab Narcissus's wrists. His fingers claw at the wrestler's forearms.